it's here, Nancy. The games have begun.
Yeah, it's hard to believe almost, isn't it? I think this has been built up for so long, and it's such a... I mean, this is technically my first games as a sports journalist, so I'm not really used to kind of what the usual run-up is, but I imagine this definitely isn't it.
No, it has a completely different personality this year, and it is a different sort of time warp. We had the COVID time warp, and now we've got this add-on time warp of these Olympic Games, which is extraordinary. But as I said, it all began this morning. The first soccer games, football games kicked off, as well as softball, baseball. So the games have begun, although the opening ceremony isn't until Friday, the 23rd. So that's going to be different as well. Talking about games with a difference, because no public allowed. So the atmosphere is not going to be there. It's going to be very, very strange indeed. And we won't know what the atmosphere feels like until we feel it and we hear about it and we watch it and we absorb it. So I know you and I are going to be glued to it for 2 weeks solid, Nancy. First of all, this week we're going to be talking football again. And just by coincidence, I managed to, shall I say, bump into Katie Duncan, who's a former New Zealand Football Fern player. She's just retired at the end of 2019. But I bumped into her on social media, because that's the way you meet people these days, isn't it, Nancy?
Yeah, it's all virtual.
And I wanted to hear what she said. She had to say about the Football Ferns, their prospects at these games, and to get a wider look at football at these games. It's just 12 teams in the 4 groups, in 3 groups rather, and it's going to be a very, very intense competition. As I said, it's all started this morning. But just to remind you, Katie Duncan, she, as I said, played for the Football Ferns. She made 131 appearances for them, including 3 Olympic Games and 3 World Cups, plus 2 U20 World Cups. And in her amazing career, she also played for Bad Neuenahr, Notts County, FC Zurich and Melbourne Victory. And since retiring, as I said, at the end of 2019, she's been coaching 3 teams, she tells me, but she's also spending a lot of her time being a parent. She and her wife, who's also a former Ferns player, Cilla Duncan, raising a family. They have a 2-year-old daughter, Nadia, who I met online, and they're expecting their second child later this year. So let's get to Katie's take on the Olympic Games football tournament. You're a happily retired woman, but not out of the sport by any means with your coaching. So give us a little bit of a picture of what life looks like for Katie Duncan now.
Yeah, sure. We have a 2-year-old toddler running around, so she does keep me very busy. But otherwise, I am coaching 3 different teams this year. So in between the toddler and the 3 teams, keeps me quite busy.
And you're enjoying your coaching then, and not missing all of the hard graft of being on the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I love coaching and giving back to the players, and I do make sure I join in from time to time. So, but it's not quite the same of playing an international football game.
No, for sure. But you'll be obviously watching your mates, your former teammates as well, on the team there in Tokyo. And I wanted to get your take on not just your prospects for the New Zealand team, but what you think of this, because there aren't many teams at the end of the day on this Olympic in this Olympic tournament. What's your overall view of it?
Yeah, I think with the 12 teams, it's just really exciting, and it is hard to kind of pick, I guess, who will go through and who will medal for this Games. It's going to be a really exciting event. What
do you think of your prospects, because you're in the same group as USA and Australia and Sweden? That's a tough group to be in. But what does the team look like now for you? Obviously you've watched some new girls come on, and you've still got some old mates on it. How do you think their chances are? Yeah, it is a really tough group for New Zealand.
but I guess any group is tough when you come to the Olympic Games. But I know the Kiwis will be doing their absolute best, and they are a team, a current team filled with some experience. Some girls that I started playing with many years ago, who are still there, going strong, and so they'll be certainly looking to use those players, experienced players within the team. And there are a couple of young players coming through too, and it will be really, really exciting to see, I guess, how we come together. And that first game versus Australia, really looking forward to seeing what the girls can give.
Nothing like a local rivalry there to start you off in the Olympics, is there? Now, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your squad?
Yeah, I guess for us, we have always been that team that competes well in terms of defensively, very strong. We it was a shame, a very big shame for us to lose Rebecca Stott. I'm not sure if you've heard or seen the news, but she a centre back, and she was diagnosed with cancer earlier this year. So that is a really, really big loss for the Football Ferns. But she's had a treatment, and she is in full recovery mode, and doing really well. But we still have, Abby Ursig, who is just such a strong defender. And so, I think our defenders are really strong. Midfielders always, I guess, are working really hard. And then up front, you've got the likes of Hannah Wilkinson, who loves to score a goal versus USA. So I'll be looking forward to that game, and hopefully she'll be up for that too. So I guess something that the Ferns have struggled with in the past is that we are, I would say, we haven't quite nailed a game changer or goal scorer in terms of the likes of, Brazil have Marta, Canada have Sinclair, and Team GB have Ellen White, and then you've got USA, who have every player under the sun. But I know the strikers, that they in our team currently, that they can step up for it. As I mentioned, Hannah Wilkinson. We also have another player, Rosie White, who was unfortunately unavailable for selection. So that is another little loss for New Zealand. But I know the girls will come together and take the opportunity and take the chances that they get.
And obviously facing Australia too, you're familiar with each other's games. What will be the biggest test in that game for New Zealand?
Yeah, I guess you could look at it in a positive, in that, like you said, we know Australia, we probably play them the most out of everyone internationally, and so there won't be any kind of surprises. Sometimes when you play other teams, even the likes of Brazil, they have that flair or that unpredictability sometimes, which is quite hard to manage. But with Australia, you almost know what you're going to get, and I'm sure the girls have been training and preparing to come up against Australia, and we know that the games where we play them have been really close. I'm sure that they would be, I guess, confident to beat us, but I know that New Zealand can definitely, on any day, if they come together and everything kind of clicks and everyone is doing their role to their best ability, then anything is possible. And so I'm very much looking forward to that one, especially that one.
I would imagine that would bring out the most competitive nature of all the Kiwis.
Oh, certainly. We do have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Australia. We do get on with the Australians very, very well. But at the same time, if there's any team, I mean, you want to win any game, but if there is any team that you want to beat, is the Aussies for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then you've got USA and you've got Sweden to deal with. What are your thoughts on both of those games?
Yeah, USA, obviously we know that will be a very, very challenging game. But, you know, at the end of the day, teams like USA have, I guess, expectation. They have the kind of the pressure on them. The expectation is that they will win. So in a way, we have nothing to lose. So I'm sure the girls will be going out and doing our best versus them. Sweden, we actually haven't played Sweden before, which is surprising. Sweden have always been in the world events and things, and we haven't come up against Sweden, so that will be I guess an awesome test for New Zealand. But the good thing about playing them third is that the coaches and the players will be able to review the footage and see kind of where they are and what their threats are and how we can nullify them and also how we can hurt them.
Yeah, for sure. You have that advantage, obviously, before you do meet them. Looking at the other groups, what are the teams that you like the most out of these? And I'm going to get your predictions for the medals too.
Group B with Japan, that will be exciting. Japan, we know that, you know, the Japanese play very well, play some good football. Whether the home advantage helps them or not, perhaps in terms of the environment and that they are at home, but you know, not having spectators, if that affects the footballing too, then that's kind of in a way a disadvantage for them. They won't have as much support as they maybe had hoped, but you know, home advantage, I'm sure that will always help the Japan team. Canada, I'm sure they've been a team that have improved a lot over the years, and I'm sure that they'll be pushing for a medal. Team GB, look, they can. They're also a really decent team. It's hard, isn't it, when you look at all the teams? It's just such a strong group of teams there. And then you've got, Netherlands, Brazil. I guess who I would pick for the medals. Oof. Geez, that's a really hard one.
Put you on the spot there, and I need to know what colour they're going to be.
I think currently with the roster of USA, I think I would have to pick them for a gold. Silver, I would have to go with, I think, Netherlands. Netherlands have been doing really well. So I think they'll have a strong tournament. And bronze. Oh, it's a hard one. I know Canada are pushing for a different colour medal, but I'm gonna say Australia.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah, I think they'll be our not the dark horse, because we know Australia is strong.
Yeah.
But that's a hard one. That third spot could, you know, or it could be Japan. I'm sitting on the fence here with that one.
Are you?
Yeah, I'd like to say New Zealand could medal, but I'm not sure this Olympics is the one that we are to do that, unfortunately.
All right, and the neighbours might creep in instead.
Maybe.
Or Japan. Yeah. You on Japan? You know, they obviously have that home advantage, and it makes a difference, even though there's not going to be a crowd.
Yeah.
Still think you know that there'll be a lot of pressure and desire and passion, obviously, to.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, for sure. they've got the quality. So
yeah. And they're turning pro, aren't they? This fall.
Yes.
So,
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they probably could be the ones that we're looking out for, and watching over our shoulder for.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
They might just surprise us. Well, it's exciting time, and I'm sure you're going to be glued to the TV.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Well, I hope your predictions are right, obviously, for the gold. I'm with you on that. But it will be a wait and see, and we'll have to supplement the roar of the crowd with our
yeah.
applause at home.
For sure. And the Olympic Games are special, and anything can happen in the Olympic Games. So who will know? Maybe none of those teams will medal, and we'll see a completely different lineup. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we will. All right. Well, I know you'll enjoy it. Clearly, you're going to have a lot of fun watching it all. And we might have to get you back on the show sometime and get your predictions for the future, and maybe a little review of these Olympics, and then a look ahead to the World Cup.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
All right, Katie. Well, thanks for taking the time to come on the show. Appreciate it.
Okay, no worries. Catch you later.
You notice how I called it football tournament in the lead there, Nancy?
Yeah, I'm grateful. Although, if we think, if you really look at it, the IOC in Tokyo 2020, they call it football as well. So I think that is the official name, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to stop this Americanism. That's all it comes down to. I've just got to get over it and get back to my British roots and call it football, because that's what it really is. But it was interesting to hear Katie's take on it all there. I mean, she's realistic about the football Ferns and their expectations there. They've got to play Australia, she said, today. And so we'll bring you that first round. Second round, we'll have quite a bit to talk about the soccer. I'm sorry, about the football next week. See, I slip into it easily on next week's show. But we're going to go now to the rest of the program, where Nancy has a complete roundup of what's been happening around the world of women's sports, or the highlights, I should say.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got quite a big lead story, but maybe we should talk a little bit about the Olympics first, seeing as we've kind of come from that. Kind of started today, and it's been a very interesting situation there so far, and there's been quite a few positive COVID cases, unfortunately. So the one of the most high profile ones is Coco Gauff, but luckily she tested positive before she went to Tokyo, so isn't kind of stuck self-isolating in Japan. She's at home. So I think that was very disappointing news for her. She's only 17 years old and a real talent. And she released a statement saying that she's really disappointed by it. But, if there's any kind of silver lining in that situation, it's that she is only 17 years old. And I mean, she's going to be at, 4 or 5 Olympic Games in the future. And at this point, she's good, but you wouldn't necessarily say she's a gold medal contender. But, at Paris 2024 or Los Angeles 2028, which would be a home games for her, she could definitely be up there for a gold medal. So it is a real shame. But I suppose that's kind of the risks that come with holding an Olympic Games during coronavirus, during the pandemic. It's just, so unpredictable, and you could do everything you possibly can to protect yourself, but somehow you're still positive, or you're in contact with someone that's positive. So a similar story again, featuring female American athletes. A female American gymnast tested positive for COVID a few days ago, and a team member has also been identified as a close contact. So they tested positive at the team's training camp, and they've now been transferred to a hotel to quarantine. The athlete hasn't been named, but she was an alternate, so she was a reserve. So hopefully it hasn't kind of really crushed someone's Olympic dream. And then I think there was a concern that this could be obviously Simone Biles, but the athlete has been named as a teenager, and Simone Biles is 24. And then also talking to some of my colleagues at Inside the Games who had done a bit of investigating. If the athletes had been at a training camp, then it would be more likely to be from the American trampolining team as opposed to the artistic gymnastics team, because their competition starts earlier, and the artistic gymnastics team hadn't actually left for Tokyo at the time of this positive COVID test. But regardless, whoever it is going to be really, really disappointed. And yeah, it just kind of at the moment seems to be a constant roll of positive coronavirus cases, which was to be expected, and definitely got to expect quite a few more in the next 2 weeks as the games take place. But it's, anyone that has to go into isolation because of it, I really, really feel for them.
So it really is a tragedy if they do. You go all the way there, which is a huge journey. It seems, unless you're coming from Australasia, it is a huge journey from Europe or for North America. So it's really hard, I think, on anybody who has to, not turn around and come back, but they may as well turn around and come back. But I did hear on BBC Radio this morning, Nancy, how one reporter was out there and he too came in close contact. He doesn't have it himself, but he said, we all knew when we came to these games that this was the risk. This was the risk that they could be in close contact and it could completely undo their mission. So that's the shame of it all. And now he said actually, that Tokyo now just wants to get through these games, get it over and done with, and send everybody home and, see what they're dealing with at the end of it. But we just hope that the pandemic doesn't spread as a result of these games, so that it becomes unmanageable for them. But I think it's going to be a very, very different atmosphere wherever you go. The opening ceremony, no crowds, no fans, just a very different feel for these games. So hopefully it's it becomes manageable for them.
Yeah, and like you were saying there, about the member of staff from the BBC, one of my former colleagues at Inside the Games, he's also in the same situation and in isolation for 2 weeks. So yeah, like you said, I think it's kind of what you just would have to go to the games expecting it to happen, I think, almost. Yes. Or, having it as a possibility in your mind. But it's extremely difficult. Extremely difficult for everyone involved, whether that's the athletes, the officials, or the media. And just hopefully the sport makes it all worth it. You really hope that in terms of sport, when you take everything else away from it, it's a really good games and makes this all kind of worthwhile. Yeah,
that's the bottom line, isn't it? That it has been worthwhile. I don't know how you measure that. For the athletes, it's going to be different to the officials or to the organising committee or to the IOC. But the IOC have pushed this. Thomas Bach, their president, he's been the driving force behind making this happen, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I think as well, it does come down to money, unfortunately. Kind of the motivation for making the games happen is maybe not as kind of nice as the IOC like to make it out to be. They've been calling this the light at the end of the tunnel, but I mean the majority of countries are nowhere near the end of the pandemic tunnel at the moment, and it's almost it's essentially the money, the broadcasting deals that are in place, the money that goes to the international federations for each sport that keep them going for the next 3 years until the next Olympic Games, which is a necessity because obviously they need to, there needs to be that money in sports to keep everything going and to allow athletes to compete. But when we're talking about, is it worthwhile? I think a lot of people will say, the ultimate thing is to keep people safe and this holding a massive sporting competition during a pandemic is not really the best way of keeping people safe. So I think it does come down to money, but like I said before, seeing as it is happening, we've just got to hope that there are some really great moments on the field or in the pool or on the track, and at least maybe give some athletes after a hard 2 years, give them some joy, and people watching at home as well who haven't really been able to watch much sport, give them some happiness as well. So just fingers crossed that it's all, COVID wise, it's all kept to a minimum.
Yeah, well, we'll be keeping an eye on it here, of course, and also through, we should say, keeping in touch with our colleagues who are out in Tokyo. We both have several that are out there covering the games, so we'll be giving you their reactions as well. And so, what's our next story this week, Nancy? Is it still Olympic related?
No, we can move on to there's two incidents. So I wrote an opinion piece today on two incidents which happened this week. The first was with the Norwegian beach handball team, who were competing at the European Beach Handball Championships, and they asked if they could play in shorts as opposed to bikini bottoms, and they were refused. Their request was refused because of European Handball Federation regulations, which require female players to wear bikini bottoms with a side width of a maximum of 10 centimetres. So, yeah, this was originally put on social media and caused a lot of uproar. And then Norway went ahead and wore shorts anyway in their bronze medal match. It's kind of a bit of a protest, and then ended up being fined £1,295 by the EHF for improper clothing. Which just a bit kind of disheartening, really. There's absolutely no competitive advantage to wearing shorts as opposed to wearing bikini bottoms, and ultimately I think it comes down to choice. But the Norwegian players said they didn't want to wear the bikini bottoms because they felt unnecessarily sexualized, and also when they were on their periods they felt uncomfortable. So they're very legitimate reasons, and I think these players should essentially have the choice to wear bikini bottoms if they want to, which is fine, or if they want to wear shorts, they can wear that, which is fine. And there's no real kind of legitimate reasoning for them not to be able to wear shorts, aside from the fact that the regulations are probably a bit outdated and sexist. So that happened. And then also on the same day, coincidentally, Paralympian Olivia Breen, she's para athlete, so she does long jump and then also I think some events on the track as well. She was competing at an event in Bedford and was wearing Adidas briefs, just like official competition wear. And then after she'd competed in the long jump, she was approached by one of the officials, one of the volunteers helping out, and was told that her briefs were too short and inappropriate. And she posted on social media about it afterwards and said she'd been disappointed and frustrated by it. She said that she'd been wearing the same briefs for years and they're specifically designed for competing in. I will hopefully be wearing them in Tokyo. It made me question whether a male competitor would be similarly criticised. And then she said there needs to be regulations and guidelines in relation to competition kit, but women should not be made to feel self-conscious about what they are wearing when competing. So again, it just kind of comes down to this kind of idea that people are just focusing too much on what women are wearing.
Yes. When
not really focusing on what they're actually doing. And who cares what they wear? Ultimately, it should be their choice. They choose what they want to wear.
Yep.
That's their decision. And then we just completely focus on what they're doing sport-wise. It's just, I think for them to both happen, they both seem like quite paradoxical incidents, because one was the Norwegian team getting fined for wearing shorts, and then someone being criticised for wearing bikini bottoms. It seemed a bit paradoxical, but they both just highlighted the fact that female athletes just often are just completely judged by what they're wearing, which is not great.
It will be interesting to see if there is any incidents in the pool for what women are wearing now, or for what men are wearing. I mean, the swimsuits have changed enormously. Right? They're not just a short costume like you and I would wear to the pool, perhaps. Now they've got a length right down to their knees. So it's the same thing, isn't it? Are they going to be judged on how short their costume is, if the costume is how it used to be, or have they got to wear the longer version? Yeah,
and I think it should just be choice, whatever the athletes feel comfortable in.
It should be, but, given this conversation, you have to wonder if they're going to apply it to swimmers in the pool.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. It's interesting with swimming though, because there is that swimming suit that is prohibited because I think it makes you more aerodynamic. But yeah, I mean, that's a completely different point. But yeah, I mean, I just hope this kind of pressure like makes the European Handball or International Handball Federation have a look at some of their regulations and just give female athletes a bit more freedom to wear what they want, I think.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see what becomes of this because, I think the athletes are in a stronger position in many ways in Tokyo than they have been in the past, with the IOC allowing them to protest. So where does that line get drawn?
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely got a lot more power, I suppose. Yeah, autonomy. They definitely do. Yeah, I think it's kind of, especially maybe at this Olympic Games as well, where, I feel like the IOC probably owe them more. The IOC need the athletes maybe more than the athletes need them because it's such a kind of precarious games. They need
the athletes, what we call the athletes' games.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, what's next this week, Nancy?
So next up, we've got some news from Naomi Osaka. So she is a player that is expected to compete at Tokyo. It'll be a home Olympics for her. And she's been stepped back from the court in June. So she's been away for coming up to 2 months now. And she stepped back after just to kind of protect her mental health after there was a bit of a storm, I'd say, about around the French Open when she kind of stepped back from doing her media duties. So she's, had been criticised on Twitter by some, I mean, I don't know these people very well because they're American, but I think they're quite like right-wing, maybe, ex-Fox News anchor, so I'm presuming probably a bit.
Yes.
On the right of the political spectrum. But yeah, she was criticised because she'd appeared on 2 magazine covers. So she appeared on Vogue Japan, Vogue Hong Kong, and then also Sports Illustrated. So there are a few commentators who said on Twitter, she stepped back from the limelight, but she's still able to do these magazine covers. And then Osaka, in a now deleted tweet, she responded and said that the covers had actually been shot last December. And yeah, she kind of accused the commentators on spewing negativity. So and then since deleted it. So it probably was a kind of a bit out of frustration. But the tweet still got out there and people still heard her side of the story. So I think, she still kind of got the message across that, these covers weren't shot last week. They were done kind of 6 months ago, and then maybe a bit unfortunate timing in the timing that it's been released. But regardless, anyway, we should be seeing her back on the court next week. I think the women's tennis competition starts, and there's already been some pictures of her training at the venue in Tokyo. So I'm sure with the women's tennis tournament, there's been a lot of dropouts. A lot of big names aren't there. It's kind of between her and Ashley Barty, really, in terms of like kind of quite credible favourites for the gold medal. So I think she'd be really, really up for it and getting an Olympic gold.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully she's as motivated as ever now, being at home too. Still, she won't have the crowds, but there will, I don't know if the volunteers will be able to voice in any way, because I did hear that there would be no verbal. There would be no verbal interaction from the crowds, and I don't know if that includes the volunteers. So it's a very strange atmosphere, I must say.
Yeah, really strange. I think I remember for the playbook for the media, it was no cheering at all. So I think even if there's officials and volunteers and media in the court. They can't make a lot of noise. So, yeah, it's going to be really strange.
Very, very odd atmosphere. Okay, we're going to switch to a big event in the world of women's cricket that's happening. It seems to be that we built up to the 100 competition now for months and months and months. We've had Beth Barrett-Wild, who heads the 100 there in London at England Cricket, and so this is actually now going to happen, but there's been a lot of changes to players in the last minutes. But it's a big tournament for England cricket, and I think you're going to go, aren't you? Didn't you promise us you were actually going to go?
Yeah, I'm going tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow the first game.
Awesome.
So I'll be there.
Expect pictures. I expect lots of feedback. Make me really envious.
I will. Yeah, it's going to be a really nice day here as well, so it should be good. Yeah, but it's actually, so the 100 has been kind of in a bit of a gender pay row. So the whole kind of premise of it is that it puts the men's and women's crickets on an equal level in terms of kind of the marketing behind it, the promotion behind it. It's not equal pay, but I think it's equal prize money for each, for the winners and so on. But there's been a bit of I think, falling out over female players who work part-time and play cricket part-time. So this has been reported in the Telegraph. So the majority of female players in each squad are professional and are getting a full-time wage, but there's at least 5 players in each of the 8 teams that aren't. And because of COVID, essentially there's COVID risk assessments which see, whether it's safe for a player to be kind of within the team, within their bubble, and then leaving and going to work and coming back or not. And I think that's made it quite difficult to maintain a part-time job and play in the 100. So it's kind of put some of these part-time players in a bit of a tricky position where they've had to decide whether to take the whole tournament, the whole full 5 weeks as annual leave. And apparently one player was forced to decide between participating in the 100 or leaving or keeping their job, essentially. So it doesn't say what she ultimately decided to do. But I think, this has caused a bit of kind of discontent, I think, especially because the way it's been promoted is that it's, meant to be benefiting both male and female cricketers. It's giving them a fair chance to play. And then this isn't really the case. If they're not, part-time, they're not being paid enough to just have that as one job. It's a bit of a shame. So, I think it's, obviously there's still a lot of positive things to take from this. And I'll probably see tomorrow, it'll be the first time I think women's cricket is put on that pedestal for sure. And tomorrow is going to be the first time that a major team competition in the UK is launched with a women's fixture. So it's kind of it's really groundbreaking. But I think this story shows that it's not quite perfect. I think there needs to be a bit of kind of tinkering to make sure that it's really, truly helping female cricketers.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, because, I'm with you. I mean, there was a time when most of them were amateurs anyway, did have a job to supplement their cricket.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's still progress. Like, I still think, there's little steps back, but it's still massive progress. And I think they're really hoping this tournament kind of facilitates, taps into an audience that doesn't like cricket or hasn't really watched cricket before, and then that in turn helps women's cricket grow and grow the appetite for it. So I think it's definitely progress. Like, I think it's a step forward, but
definitely
things can't be perfect, but hopefully as the years go on they'll be able to amend these little problems.
Hopefully. Definitely. It is progress. I agree with you. We just need to keep that forward momentum. That's really important in all sports now for women. And I feel somewhat confident that we do have a momentum going here with women's sports. When you just look at the increased coverage by, anybody and everybody who can have access to the internet now, there's a lot of women out there that are passionate about increasing the exposure for women's sports.
Yeah, there is loads. And again, I think with the 100, they've kind of like hired content creators to work on games and stuff. And again, it's just giving opportunities for women to be covering women's sport as well, which is something that wasn't there like even 10 years ago.
No.
So it's, kind of all these additional events are just really positive.
And we're going to turn now to another sport, Nancy. And again, the increased number of women in this sport is really, really, really exciting. And that's motor racing. And we just saw the W Series was at Silverstone last weekend in England there. And we've got some top drivers now in that series. It really is a wonderful opportunity for budding Formula One drivers.
It is. Yeah, it's... a real seems to be getting a lot of momentum, I think, the W Series. And I think having it, this season they've kind of partnered with F1, so it's taking place on every F1 weekend. And that is, I think, becoming a bit of a game changer because there was such a big buzz around the British Grand Prix happening at Silverstone. And then the W Series was kind of a part of that as well. And there was a lot of the promotion, it kind of went both ways. So like on Give Me Sport Women, when we had David Coulthard, who is a kind of F1 legend, we had him talking about the W Series. And it was kind of because it was one big event, which I think, it's worked out really well. And I hope they keep doing this for future years to come. It was an interesting race. Alice Powell has kind of been the standout racer so far this year. She won her second race, so she won at the weekend and is now top of the standings. Fabian, I'm not sure how you say her surname. I think Volwend or Volvend, maybe.
Volvend, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She came second, and then Jamie Chadwick, who is the defending champion. She came third and is second in the overall standings behind Powell. So that's two British drivers, which is really...
1-2, right there.
But I think, it's just been a really interesting series so far, and it's been very kind of unpredictable. So there's been a lot of different, 6 different drivers on the podium during the first 3 races. So it's, not predictable at all. And like I said, I think there was such a buzz about it because it was at Silverstone that I think, it's kind of been really great to see.
Yeah, exciting stuff, and good luck to them. There's some great, images too coming out of that sport, with their new helmets and the colour. And, there's just a whole new dimension to the sport with women motor racing, especially those particularly fast cars. Is it something you would do? Would you get on a track and do those sort of speeds?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I haven't really had much chance to ever do something like that, so I don't know if I would enjoy it. I mean, I suppose there's the... If it was guaranteed that I wouldn't crash, I think I would really enjoy it. But there's that, I suppose there's that like fear, which is, or probably adrenaline, turns into adrenaline.
Yes.
That is probably the downside to it. But I think if it was like completely safe and they put buffers all around it, then I'd be well up for it.
How are you with go-kart? Go-karting, do you do that?
I haven't been go-karting since I was a child, but I mean, I enjoy driving my car. I find that an enjoyable activity.
Are you a fast driver?
No, not a fast driver. No, I've never been caught for speeding or anything like that. But I'm quite comfortable. I'm not a scared driver. I don't think I'm not a nervy driver. So maybe.
Maybe an opportunity. If anyone's listening to this and has a car that they need testing at Silverstone, just give Nancy a call. This could be your opportunity to get on the track. I mean, now you getting to know these drivers. You could be doing something you never knew you thought was out of reach. You never knew what the opportunity would be around the corner being a sports journalist. Speaking of which, actually, we did. Well, I did do. Was part of a media team before Summer Olympics way back when, and there was myself and Claire Balding and Kate Green and Elizabeth Firth, and there might have been there was 4 or 5 of us on the team. And we did actually have a go-kart team, which is a fundraiser for the British Olympic Association before Summer Olympics way back. And it was at Silverstone. And that was pretty darn good fun, I have to say, because it was well organised. We were just one team,
Yeah.
but not in a hurry to get back behind a car and go at speed, I have to say. I'm a defensive driver. So, all right, we're going to move on. Enough of this motor racing talk. We're going to move on to our final story this week, which is about the Athletics Integrity Unit. And it's all about drug testing, Nancy.
Yeah, so I think there was quite a bit of concern about this Olympic Games because of the pandemic. There wasn't kind of as rigorous a doping program or anti-doping program going on while a lot of countries were in lockdown, especially at the start when, people weren't quite sure what was safe and what wasn't, and everyone was in a very strict lockdown. I think there wasn't much kind of doping test going on at all. So yeah, I think there's been always quite a lot of like trying to prove that, organisations like the Athletics Integrity Unit are going to be really hot on doping during the games to kind of make up any deficit from the past year or 2 years. So yeah, they've said that they're planning to carry out 800 drug tests on track and field athletes at the games. And then 300 of the tests will be carried out pre-competition and 500 in competition. So yeah, and also the tests will be split across Tokyo, where the majority of athletics are happening in the National Stadium, and then Sapporo, where the marathons and race walking is also happening. So yeah, it's obviously, it's going to be interesting because I do think potentially a lot of athletes might have thought this is a good time to maybe try and get away with doping. And there's always doping at games. It's impossible to kind of go through games without it. So it'd be interesting, I think, to see what kind of numbers there are from this games when it comes to doping.
Yes, it certainly will. Unlike any other game, so much that is unpredictable now. But we will be keeping an eye on it. As I said, the games actually started with competitions this morning. Wherever you are in the world, I'm not going to give anything away in case you had to record because it happened at dark 30. But we'll be following those stories and the rest of the tournament. Of course, this is a football tournament and the rest of the games, the softball, that baseball, that started today and tomorrow. But the official opening ceremony is on Friday, and the games really do begin in full swing from then. So, Nancy, this time next week, we won't have any shortage of stories, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, definitely not. This is going to be a really busy period. Especially just for people concentrating on women's sport. This is kind of when a lot of people elsewhere sit up and take note of female athletes.
Yes.
I think we've got to do justice in promoting them as much as we can while people are interested, and hopefully, build a bit of momentum for outside Olympic time. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too. Cannot wait. All right, well, we'll be back next week. As I said, in the meantime, follow Nancy on social media at Nancy_Gillen. I know you've got a new handle. What was this changing your handles on?
Yes,
what's all this about, Nancy?
My Twitter's the same, still Nancy_Gillen, but I've just made a new Instagram account specifically for work because I have like a personal Instagram account. I don't really share work stuff on there, so I just thought I'd make a work account to kind of separate things a bit.
And what's it called?
Promote my work more. So it is Nancy. You know what? I'm just going to look on my phone because I haven't learned it off by heart yet. It's Nancy Gillen _sport.
Okay, Nancy Gillen _sport.
Yeah, quite easy to find, I imagine.
On Instagram, okay, and it's Nancy _Gillen on Twitter. We're, of course, at WiSP Sports, wherever you look for your social media, and also wherever you look for podcasts. We're both on the WiSP Sports channel and on the show of your choice. So if you just listen to WiSP Sports Desk, you can just subscribe to that separately here on any podcast app. So, as I said, Nancy and I will be back next week with a whole lot more Olympic news. So I hope you'll join us then. And for the time being, thanks for listening. Enjoy the Olympic Games. Until the next week, goodbye for now.